Chiron rips the band-aid off. And yes, it may pull the scab off with it. It may not be pretty. But what it does is it airs the wound, and you can look at it and you can see what does that wound need, and you can tend to it. Hello, rising stars. Let's dive into today's episode, which is a timeless collective message from Chiron. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Thea Stone, and this podcast is where we deep dive into collective and astrological energies to support you on your spiritual path. So why Chiron? I decided to focus on a message from Chiron today because it's been revealed to me recently that I've been going through a Chiron initiation for the last few years, and I didn't even realize it. I have a stellium in Aries, and for those who don't know what that means, it basically means a whole bunch of stuff in one astrological sign. And I have 3 planets and 3 major asteroids in Aries, and Chiron has been sweeping over them in a series of conjunctions. And on the last of the asteroids in my stellium, on the day that it was exact, I actually got a download, a revelation about how Chiron could be impacting me, and this started a sort of thread of astrological sleuthing that made me realize just how much Chiron had been impacting my life over the last years. And I ended up sort of looking at the dates of certain things and how it was aligning with certain experiences in my life. And it was quite eye-opening for me. And I'm also aware that because Chiron has a cycle of approximately every 50 years, around age 50-ish, we all go through a Chiron return. And so I'm coming up to that in a few years. And I feel like the sweep through my Aries stellium has been like preparation for that time. Now, for those of you who don't know, Chiron in astrology is associated with the archetype of the wounded healer. Some people even call it the wounded leader because it's about how we transform the difficulties we've had in our life into strengths that we can then use to help others. And so I feel like I'm being called into service with Chiron to help others, maybe through their transits, their aspects. I'm still exploring what that may mean, but what I feel like to begin with is I'm going to start with a new content series in the podcast. So every time I feel that Chiron's calling, I'll do an episode and bring a message through from Chiron for the collective. And so we're going to start with that as part of the exploration, but I have a feeling Chiron is going to weave into other projects and offerings going forward, but that's not clear how that's going to unfold yet. So I'm going through at the same time a nodal reversal. And for those who don't know, it's kind of like a crossroads in your life where lots of stuff comes up for review, lots of options are presented, and you don't really know which direction in life you're going to go. There's lots of things that suddenly are up in the air that you felt maybe were solidified, or you knew for sure where you were going or what you were doing or who you are and all of this. And as I'm going through this for the next sort of year and another month, I'm kind of not sort of like planting a flag in the sand and saying, I'm doing this for certain. So what I'm using it is a time for inner pilgrimage, self-discovery, but also as a time of exploration and experimentation, and to see what sort of like survives the process of this nodal reversal, and what sticks, what wants to continue forward outside of this time where things are uncertain. So I'm not gonna say I'm definitely doing these kind of things with Chiron or this kind of stuff with Chiron, but what I do know is that Chiron has called me, and I feel that that's going to weave in somehow, and it's going to make sense over time. So I wanted to honor that because this has been quite an interesting couple of weeks, a lot of things, a lot of eye-opening moments for me. And so I thought I would do that by coming on and doing a collective reading and a message from Chiron. So if you're interested, as a side note, I have started a series on my studio account on Instagram, so it's Sunstone Studio, called the Crossroad Journal. So every now and then I'm going to check in and I'm going to do a little update on what's been shifting, why certain things have dropped away, why certain things are becoming more active in all the sort of creative and spiritual stuff we're doing. So if you're interested in following that, it's only going to be when it feels aligned, probably every few months, because things are shifting all the time. But you can follow that and get the link for that in the description below. So as Chiron has revealed herself, I wanted to get a message from Chiron because at the time when the message came through, when it was exact on my last asteroid in my stellium, there was also at the same time a trine going on between Mars and Leo and Chiron, Mars and Leo and Chiron, and Uranus and Taurus and Chiron. So there was some interesting astrology there, but I actually want these messages to actually be timeless. A lot of the content I've done before have been specific on a transit that's going on or a particular astrological phenomenon. And there is a sort of window where that's relevant, even though some of the messages could probably be useful at other times. But I want to sort of tie this in more to my experience with shamanic astrology, which is much more about direct revelation, connecting directly, in this case, to Chiron. And that's Chiron is in the, planetary body, not the myth that is associated and given the name to it. So there's a difference. You may notice me referring to Chiron as she or her, and this is simply because in the channeling I've done, she has revealed herself in a feminine aspect to me. Now, other people channeling Chiron may get a different experience, but for me, she's coming through at present in a feminine energy. So that's why I refer to her with feminine pronouns. So that's the plan for today. Before we get into that, I want to also talk about a different thing that has also been going on that I'd want to mention in case you haven't noticed it, because a lot's been going on since the last podcast. So I just want to do a little review before we dive into the cards. So the other thing that's been going on, I did a pilot in May that I actually premiered for a satsang. And this is another exploration in the crossroads that I'm doing, but the response was actually quite favorable to the pilot. And so I've decided that going forward, I'm going to include these episodes as a different content series in the podcast. So we have now the episodes like this, which is, I guess, like a sort of main general episode. And then we've got the Psychic Sisters content series. We've got now the Satsang content series, and we've got the Chiron content series. So these are just different groups of themes that are going on within the podcast. So as part of the satsang, I did a moment of Zen. And the idea is that in each episode, I'll leave you with a tool to help you in your sort of like spiritual path. And then this particular one, I did a meditation. And I've been feeling like I want to, as well as these satsangs, the great thing about the satsangs is I'm going to do them as premieres. And so this means that for the moment of Zen, whether it's a meditation journey or whatever I just decide to do or whatever it comes through, we can actually do it together live, which is a really nice touch, I feel. So we can tap into that energy. Although if you watch the replay, of course, you can connect to that sort of collective energy around the moment of Zen. But I've been feeling like I want to do higher quality recordings and videos of the meditations, perhaps at different lengths as well. So depending on what length of meditation you want to do, you can do that. You can choose between them. And so this had been sort of like in the back of my mind. And then I had this experience. I just washed my hair and I was drying it with a hairdryer. And for some reason, the sound of the hairdryer on that day, it had a drone sound that it was reverberating in the room. And it actually sent me into a trance state. And I ended up doing some sacred singing, and it was quite a beautiful experience that was totally unexpected. And so when I came out, I decided to start researching different kinds of drone instruments and music that I could weave into the meditations and journeys and so on. Because it reminded me of an experience I had at a music concert where I had actually just been in the audience and somebody who was on stage was using a shruti box to create a drone effect. And on the day, I was actually grieving because somebody I knew for a long time had passed away. And so it was actually an incredibly healing moment for my heart. My heart just really expanded. I actually cried a lot during the concert, but in a good way. It was such a powerful release. And I was reminded of this experience while I was searching online. And so I thought, oh, okay, I should look for some shruti box samples, music that I could actually use in the meditation. And I actually came across a guy called Alex Jacobs in my research. And he's over on Bandcamp, and he has this beautiful music that's for spiritual practice and meditations. And in that, he has these shruti box tones and sounds that have been recorded live and been embedded with certain, positive intentions. And I reached out to him. We ended up finding a really nice aligned exchange between, just two indie creators who are supporting each other's work. And although I'm not usually into, heavy-handed like sponsorships, but I am always happy to share the work of people who feel aligned with this space and what we're doing here. So if you would like to check it out, if it feels aligned, if you're interested in using that kind of music in your own spiritual practice, you can find Alex's music on musicforspiritualpractice.bandcamp.com. And even though I didn't request this from him, he was lovely enough to offer a discount code from my listeners, which is Thea15. That gets you 15% off any of his music till the end of the year. So with that said, I know that was a lot to get through, but with that said, let's dive into this episode with Chiron. So what I want to do is a 10-card spread with the tarot. And then I also have a healing heart oracle, since I figured this is about healing. That if it feels aligned, we'll call in later at the end. So let's just see. I'm just going to tune in here now into Chiron. So Chiron, what timeless collective message do you have for us today? So we have the High Priestess in reverse, and I feel that I'm going to keep the reversals in this one for now. So I feel like this is talking about how we've okay, so what I'm getting is like the first thing I got through was like being disconnected from my intuition, not tapping into it. Not tapping into our inner wisdom, not tapping into the spiritual guidance that we have available to us. And then I heard about how our wounds can actually like get in the way, can kind of block this. But now I'm also feeling into how almost like there is a wound around the fact that we're not connecting as well. So it's not just that other situations in our lives can actually impact us, our ability to tap into our intuition. But the fact that we're not using our intuition itself becomes a wound that we carry. So the disconnection, the separation from spirit is in itself a wound that we carry that can be brought up in the spiritual initiation that Chiron can offer. So, okay, that's a very interesting one. Okay, so now let's see what else comes through. We can start weaving a greater message. What else do you have to say to us today, Chiron? I jumped right out. Okay, Five of Cups. Okay, and again, this is in reverse. So this is about looking at the silver lining of things. This is about releasing regrets and remorse. The places where we feel like we could have done better, and actually seeing what is the lesson in it. Why did this come up? Why did we have to go through this? Why is this making us stronger? How is this making us stronger? How is this weaving into our journey so that we can gain certain strengths and skills and understanding that's going to help us or prepare us for things coming further down the line. So it feels like there's this message of there's always purpose to everything happening, and if we can find and investigate what those might be, it can help us to actually overcome the remorse so we're not getting stuck in it. Because it's one thing to feel, say, grief, remorse, regret, or something like that as part of the learning, as part of the sort of feedback that says, okay, that didn't work, or that wasn't aligned, or something like that, because we need to feel that feedback, right? It's another to dwell in it. It's another to build identity around it. It's another to label our lives and what our expectations for life are around that. So sometimes we can hold so rigidly onto places where we didn't turn up in the way we would have liked for ourselves, for others, or whether things didn't turn out for the way we hoped in our lives. But where we ourselves kind of like maybe had a misstep, sometimes we can be too hard on ourselves and actually miss the fact that there is actually a lesson here. There is something to learn, and that if you can learn that, you can let go of the regret, the remorse, the grief, the sadness around the situation, rather than get hooked and drawn into this deep well of sadness, depression, feeling bad about yourself, maybe affecting your self-esteem, your self-worth, and things like that. So it's like Chiron's just reminding us there's always a lesson to why these things happen. Okay. Okay, I'm getting the message. Some things happen the hard way for a reason. So even though we maybe have been given opportunities to navigate a situation easier, sometimes there is medicine in actually going the hard way around, the long way around. As long as we can take ourselves out of the situation and don't get stuck. Split the deck, yeah. Okay. So we get the Emperor. And in this deck, it's power. And I feel that that's actually important somehow. It's like it working through these wounds and difficult things that show up in these Chiron transits and returns actually helps to restore our power, is what I'm getting. So much of our energy can be stored in holding and containing and avoiding wounds that are kind of like in the background, eating up energy, festering, and not being looked at. And actually, when you work through it, you release that energy, and then it's more available to you. And you're also reclaiming a part of yourself, reintegrating that, and becoming more whole. And so there is actually power in being able to do that. But also what I'm hearing is there is also a reclaiming of a power and a strength that you gain as the more you're able to face your fears. So it becomes less daunting or overwhelming to be able to do that. And so when adverse situations occur, you're able to meet there with more resilience because you've had more practice in a way. And you've also had the experience of knowing I've been able to navigate difficult situations before and come out on top. I can do it again. So I feel that there is this strong sense of there is not just a wisdom and to be learned, but regaining of one's power by going through these situations. Right. So what else do we need to know, Chiron? Oh, we've got a few. Okay, I'm going to do it in the order that they are on the table. So we got the Hierophant reversed, and then we get the Star or Grace reversed. So so what I'm getting is it can feel like this can be the times where our faith is tested, and there can be times where maybe sometimes people will like lose their faith because it can feel like they've been sort of abandoned by the divine when actually it's not the case at all. Um, but what I'm also getting as well with the Hierophant reversed, so the Hierophant can be about control, it can be about tradition. So I feel like this is like breaking you out of your comfort zone when you go through some kind of deep Chiron activation. Um, the places where you've been stuck, or places, the sort of systems or routines or where you're giving your energy that are not aligned, they're going to come up for like reconfiguration. um and it may be things just start falling away totally out of your control, and it can feel like maybe your life is falling apart, but it's like it's just things falling away that are no longer aligned and not serving you going forward into what's coming next in your life. Chiron coming around 50 in your, sort of your age when it comes around in a return. This is typically a time where people have a midlife crisis, where they have identity crisis, where they're sort of searching for something different, something new, where they're not getting satisfaction, where they're feeling called to something different, or to leave a person, or to go on a new adventure or something. So this is reminding me of this. And with the Star in reverse, it's okay. So what I'm getting is it can be about a time where you have to let go of the things that you've been holding on to for like the things you've been hoping for. You have to be willing to release, because it could be something completely different is on the path for you. um I feel this is also tying into I think it sort of like mirrors the High Priestess in reverse here, in terms of the feeling disconnected from the divine, not knowing, and that also ties in again with the Hierophant in reverse here as well. So we have three cards pointing to this feeling of um wondering, like, the if feeling like maybe a lack of spiritual support, which is probably anything but, that it can come across that way, because it's like, why is this happening to me, you know and then questioning, what did I do wrong, all of these things. So there could be a lot of that going on, but I feel like it's almost like the divine energy is showing up in a different way. It's like a divine shake-up, as opposed to here's all your blessings laid out on a silver platter, you know. And what this can do is create space for those blessings to come in. But this is a blessing in disguise, but it can feel anything but, you know. It's almost like pushing you to a point where you face the things that you've been avoiding, the things that are no longer aligned for you moving forward. Now, free will's involved here, so you can choose to use this time as you wish. You could avoid the things that are coming up, or you could use it as an opportunity to dive into it and reconfigure your life and see what things you can let go of and what things are worth carrying forward into this new chapter, right? But also it's about healing. So the star card is about healing. So if in reverse, this is about the wounds. This is about the wounds coming up, facing those wounds. And in the facing of them, in the feeling of them, in the experiences that come up, it gives us the opportunity to heal and release them. But it's up to us whether we actually decide to use that opportunity. It's like a gift, a blessing in disguise, but it can sometimes feel like the opposite, you know? So, okay, so what I feel like I'm going to do is I'll start clarifying those cards now. All right, so let's clarify the High Priestess in reverse. What else do we need to know about this, Chiron? Temptation. Okay. So what I'm feeling with this is in the sort of traditional card, this is like the devil card. So this is about the things that have like bedeviled us, our fears, our guilt, our shame. All of this is coming to the surface, but it can create a lot of doubt because all of this stuff comes up and it can cloud our intuition. We don't necessarily know what the right move for us is. It can be a difficult time to navigate because we're operating in a space where a lot of difficult stuff is coming up to be looked at. The shadow aspect is coming up to be looked at. And it's hard to necessarily figure out where we're at because we're releasing stuff. We're re-experiencing stuff. And so that may give us a feeling of actually I need to do this rather than this. But it's something that's releasing. And so it's like there is this feeling of feeling ungrounded, feeling like not being sure how to put the next foot forward. And then because of all these doubts swirling, it's harder to discern what our intuition is. But what I'm getting through here, this is actually a process to develop discernment and actually to sharpen our intuition in the long run. Because by going through the missteps of like re-experiencing the past or us trying to navigate and not quite getting it right in the present moment as these things are coming up, we're going to learn even in the midst of like the chaos of this storm of all this stuff coming up, how to become more assured in the ability for our intuition to guide us. So it's almost like we're being thrown in the deep end. Everything's swirling about us. And the whole point of it is to help us, give us an opportunity to find our way back to that inner guidance within, back to our true self, back to that aligned version, that centered version, the one without the wounds, the one without the conditioning. But in order to find it, we have to actually cut right through all of that, cut through all of that noise, all of that wounding, all of that doubt and shame and guilt and everything that's coming up, things that we haven't looked at, and rather than run away from it. And in the process of cutting through it and healing and facing, we actually fine tune and hone in on that inner guidance, the inner compass that we have. But we have to do it through, again, the hard way, rather than, beautiful synchronicities, numbers, signs, the things that make us go, oh, that's wonderful. This is like the hard part, or even the poison path to get there. So it's what was that? Revelation through deprivation. That's an interesting phrase that just came through. So it's like by feeling like we're losing touch with our intuition, we actually gain better understanding of it and of ourselves and of our path. That's interesting. Okay. It's like taking the training wheels off is what I'm hearing, so that you can learn to discern in amongst the greatest of storms and the difficult emotional experiences you might have, or difficult events that may happen in your life. And so it's helping you to find that self anchor in yourself, so that no matter what situation arises in the future, you can meet it without recreating an old wound that you'd let go of. So the whole point of it is to actually prevent you becoming more wounded in the past, as well as to release old wounds that you have been carrying. Okay. So how do we clarify this Five of Cups in reverse? So what I'm hearing, just to go back to this, is because this is the temptation card in this deck. It's like, it's building this strength so that we are not tempted to go back to our old selves. It's almost like we need to go through this path where we are like being shown through hard work the benefits of moving out of that old shell that we were in, so that in seeing the benefits of that, once we reach the other side, it's like impossible to go back because we've been stretched by a new experience, and we see how life can be without those things we've been carrying. So it's about breaking patterns and conditioning for good. Okay, so let's go back to the Five of Cups reverse. What do we need to know about that? Here we got two cards, and they sort of came out sideways, but I felt drawn to put them upright. So we have the Prince of Arrows, which is like the Knight of Swords, and that's going to pair with the Five of Cups reversed. So I think this is about how we speak to ourselves. The being able to, and our perspective. So this is about perspective changing, a shift in our mindset, away from looking at the worst part of a situation and looking for the sort of the gold or the silver lining, the sort of precious gem of a lesson within the actual experience. And we may not see it straight away. It may take us a little time to reflect in all of that. But it's easy for the mind to rush around and to focus on the negative aspects of an experience, whether it's something that happened recently or in the past. Because as we're talking about wounds, this is probably going to be deeper stuff. So this could be about revisiting as things come up, revisiting how we frame certain things, because we tend to have narratives or stories around an experience. You know, if something happened a long time ago, we probably repeated these stories to ourselves and to other people. We refined it over time. But I think what Chiron can give us is an opportunity to get new perspective on these experiences so we can let go, because it's usually the fact that we have a certain viewpoint about how things are that we get stuck, we get mentally stuck in how we sort of hold that experience, how we think about that experience. And so we can be given new opportunities to see it from a different angle so that we can actually release it, forgive ourselves as well in certain situations. So to find a way to sort of tread more lightly with ourselves in terms of the wounds that we've carried, so that we can actually sort of look at them and let them go, release them. And a lot of that comes in terms of our mental connection to what happened, you know. So yeah, so there, that's something that Chiron wanted to bring forward, is that these transits, these experiences with Chiron are an opportunity to get these new perspectives on what you had, so that you can sort of create space around them so they can loosen, so they're not so hard and rigid and like this is 100% the way it is, and you carry it like a stone within you, that allows you to soften it so it becomes more gravel, becomes more sand, something that you can release easier in the way you're mentally approaching what happened to you. And it can also be about like the flashbacks and the memories that come up as maybe something is being brought to the surface, certain experiences are triggering old memories and stuff like that. So this can be about our memories and learning to use those times where memories of difficult events come up to reframe the situation so that you can sort of build that sort of neural network of the alternative way of looking at it as a supporting mechanism for you letting it go. And so with the Emperor, we have the Queen of Coins or the Queen of Pentacles. Again, this feels like it's iterating about being able to stand in your own power, but also how to be kinder with yourself over the situation. I'm getting also a sense of ownership as well, owning your past, owning past mistakes, being accountable for that, but like releasing these stuck pockets of energy. I think, okay, one of the messages is walking with your head held up high despite the battles that you fought. Rather than letting it shrink you, actually let it empower you. Um, Knowing that you've overcome these things, you're stronger for it. So these opportunities that Chiron give us, um, both in the sort of the times where we got wounded and in the times where we're releasing and healing that wound, there are opportunities to make us stronger, to stand in our power, to nurture and care for ourselves more, and to create, you know, strong stronger sort of like expectations, maybe boundaries, standards, um, in terms of how we handle situations and, you know, what we are and are not willing to tolerate going forward. And to get there, we may have had to go into situations where we became very coward, where we became very small, where we gave our power away. So these times are opportunities for us to reclaim our power, to um, not get stuck in that small space, but to expand again. So I'm also getting something about with the Queen of Pentacles, this sense of tending to our wounds. So the act of healing like there's something like a nurturing process that needs to unfold. And so reaching a point where we feel worthy enough to do what it takes to take care of ourselves and put ourselves first instead of maybe tending to everybody else's needs above our own, um, so that we can actually value who we are and what we need and be willing to stand up for that. Okay, so how do we clarify the Hierophant in reverse, the tradition card? Okay, I'm being reminded to say that we have both the high priest and the high priestess. So this is basically like divine counterparts energetically. Now, this isn't a relationship reading, but this is at least showing that there is an interweaving of um, these spiritual roles. So there's a spiritual role for these experiences in our lives, and they can help us to actually connect more deeper spiritually. But it's almost like you have to go through that period of having your faith tested without any supporting evidence, but just going solely on your faith and your own inner compass to guide you through. And we get tested in difficult times, not when everything's comfortable. So this is one of the opportunities that Chiron gives us with these transits, alignments, and so on. Okay. So with the Hierophant reversed, we get Triumph. So this is the World card. So this is about ending cycles. So this is an opportunity. Yeah, Chiron gives us opportunities to end cycles that we've been repeating throughout our lives, to actually put to bed things that no longer serve, no longer work for us, that we've maybe continued as a pattern of familiarity, but isn't aligned with who we truly are, and certainly not aligned with who we could be called into if we do this work. So Chiron can finally give us like some relief in these areas where we've been carrying these difficult things for such a long time. And sometimes we don't even know how much we're carrying because we bury it, or because we don't have the time to process it. And this is an opportunity where it's like Chiron, sort of like the way I see Chiron is like Chiron rips the band-aid off. And yes, it may pull the scab off with it. It may not be pretty. But what it does is it airs the wound, and you can look at it and you can see what does that wound need, and you can tend to it. So some healing may have been done, you know, some way of making your way forward has happened, but it hasn't completely healed. And so this is what Chiron does. It helps us to actually get that final resolution to end cycles and to heal and to level up into what's next in our lives, particularly spiritually as well. I think that's the first time I've actually pulled the World card in this deck, which is interesting. Right. So finally, how do we clarify the Star or the Grace card in reverse? Four of Cups. Okay. With the Four of Cups, it can be about our focus can be on these options that we think we have, these paths that we think we have, these choices that we think we have, and we can miss what the divine is offering in a situation, that there is another way. And what this brings me back to is the thing about the not seeing the opportunity in the difficult moments, in the wounding resurfacing, in the Chiron transits and all of that. That there, it's almost like where we've had a missed opportunity, where we've missed opportunities in the past to heal, it's like we were being given a grand opportunity to revisit it again. And it can put us into deep states of contemplation. It can remind us of disappointing moments in our lives, or even places where we feel like we've lost out, or we didn't take an opportunity, or various ways in which it could a wound could be around. But what I'm also getting is, I guess this is a plea from Chiron actually, is that don't waste this opportunity to heal, because you won't, unless you become a centurion, 100, you're not actually going to get these transits, these you're not going to get Chiron moving through your chart in that way again, unless you happen to live beyond 100. And so I feel like Chiron is almost like saying, don't waste the opportunity. If you need to take time to heal, take time to heal. If you need to shift things up so you can put your healing first, do that. If you feel called into doing something and it doesn't make sense, but for some reason you have to do it, even if it just leads you to somewhere else and something else that actually ends up becoming more fruitful for you, do it. There's a reason for it. This is why we're learning to discern what is right for us, so that we don't collect all these wounds going forward. We can actually release difficult situations without getting the deep heartbreak and heartache and wounds, in the process. And again, it kind of goes back to like that Five of Cups scene. What is the wound teaching you? Because even the carrying of the wound has purpose. It's like, but it's like there comes a time where you can lay down your sword, you can lay them down, and the carrying of them doesn't have, in a way, the benefit, because sometimes life works in weird ways, and so sometimes it's like the process of holding a wound, the process of having a difficult experience, it's like sometimes it's like it needs to stay with us for a while, because it's slowly dripping opportunities for us to learn about ourselves and about what happened and all of that. But it's almost like there comes a time where we can just lay that down. We don't need to carry it. We don't need to interweave it into our identity. We can be free of it. And so I'm feeling this sense of, see it as an opportunity for liberation, personal liberation, and to not waste it, because you can finally get to the core of it if you want to, but it will be a journey, and you may have to reprioritize things in your life. Your life may change, but it could be a good thing, and to not be afraid of that. And in the process, you become this star, because you're no longer carrying this weight. And as you release, the more you release, the more you understand yourself, the more you're going to be able to align with what's right with you. And you're naturally going to shine as a process. But sometimes we have to go into the shadow to find our light before we can bring it into the world. And the first person that light is for you, as you discover what's next, who you're becoming, what and who you are without those wounds. And then you can move forward into what's aligned. But first, you have to be willing to travel through the shadow. Because if you can't find the light in yourself, how can you help others? That feels like that's the message today from the tarot. Beautiful. So I'm feeling like I'm going to pull the oracle card. I feel like that would be a line. So, Chiron, what message through the Healing Heart Oracle would you like to bring forward for us today? Okay. Split the deck. Oh, interesting. So we get rejected heart. And it says, transform heartbreak into inner strength. Isn't that the perfect message? So a lot of heartbreak can be around feelings of rejection or being abandoned or neglected and all of that. But there is an opportunity to actually transform that into a more resilient and strong and more empowered you. You can choose to let it break you, or you can choose to let it empower you. And sometimes we do both. But Chiron wants to remind us that these times of adversity are not here to break us. They're here to strengthen us. And if we can hold on to that and remember that, it just makes navigating it that little bit easier. Yeah. And it's interesting that we have just underneath it, it caught my eye, we have grieving heart, which again is open doors to something new. So again, by grieving, by releasing, by letting go, by surrendering these parts of ourselves, these wounds that are no longer needed, we open the door to something new in our lives, to becoming something new as well. So there is wisdom in all of this. That's the reading for today. I hope you found it useful and that you got something out of this episode. And I look forward to doing more content and more channeling from Chiron as time goes on. Just as a reminder, if you want to explore Alex's music, there's a link in the description for his Bandcamp, and the 15% off code is Thea15, and it's good to the end of the year. Keep shining.